Well, we come here to Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire has developed a good scheme for rural transport, so we've come to see at first hand how it actually works. Now I've just seen Dial a Ride, as you can see, and met Margaret and her use of Dial a Ride. And again, this is a very good example of how people who are elderly, disadvantaged. Margaret suffered a brain hemorrhage 20 years ago, I think, and is well supported.
For 18 months I was the driver of the Horncastle Dial a Ride, which was axed, no funding for it. And this one is now the East Lindsey Dial a Ride. Very important service. People like Margaret, gets them out and about. And of course, as we're heading now towards the better weather, we'll get more and more passengers that come out to go on social trips and shopping trips, in addition to the ones where they come now just to the homes. And it's a very valuable service. And I'm pleased to be one of the drivers of it.
That is fantastic. The other well-developed route of transport around here is Call Connect, which I think is an excellent service provision to people. It runs from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the evening. It operates in the rural areas where there is no public transport or there's people who live at a distance from rural transport. And they're able to pre-book, and the minibus will turn up in a particular area and take them to their destination of choice.
We do think in terms of the rurality and the small villages, some of which we nearly touched on today, but the Call Connect enables that flexibility to get around those villages. You'll often see around the country something Connect or whatever with a different sort of slant on it, but is based on the same principle. So yes, we do believe it can be replicated.
At the moment, this particular vehicle is on Newbridge Hill in Louth, so we can monitor where the vehicles are at any given time. That allows us to communicate effectively with the drivers on a real-time basis. If I had a new booking today, I would send a message through to the driver, and he would get that message instantly on his unit, but he can also communicate with us.
We live 2 miles out of Woodhall Spa in a very rural setting, and I don't know, quite frankly, what I would have done without Call Connect. I just don't know. It's opened up everything to me. It's opened up the whole of Lincolnshire to me.
Really?
Which is lovely.
My goodness me, right. We came across a particular constraint on the top of the double-decker bus yesterday when somebody was trying to explain to us that the European regulations click in. And I think that that is a particular thing that I think we need to look at.
Once we have a route that is more than 50 kilometres in length, about 32 miles, we then have to abide by European driver's hours, which restricts the amount of driving time the driver can have and also determines his rest periods, which are a lot more strict than the domestic hours. And I think our concern is that a lot of rural services could be jeopardised by this 50-kilometre rule.
We've got to be sensible about what public transport can do. I think the trick for us is to look more holistically at the whole spatial planning stuff. If you had a string of pearls of economic development or tourism attractions along that coast, if you can string together reasons why you would want to travel, then you can start to build a public transport system that will work.
So we went on the Poacher line, which is the line that goes from Nottingham to Skegness, which is a developed community rail link, and to see at first hand what that was like, the community engagement. And I think that that is one of the keys to successes in the future, about community engagement, like in the running of the Poacher line.
Well, we got Network Rail and the DFT to agree to nominating that as a community rail line, and set up the partnership, which involves the districts that the rail runs through.
The vast majority of use on the line is in the summer, when the population of Skegness multiplies by 3 or 4 or 5, for a few months.
You can obviously numbers dwindle, and what we do on that line is put events on, such as music trains, etc., that try and encourage more people on that train.
The other key lesson that came out, I think, is the way in which Lincolnshire uses volunteers. It has 20 different volunteer car schemes around in the county, which, if you like, fills the gaps. But it is encouraging the retired people, as we learned yesterday, to take on that bit of extra responsibility and take people around to the areas that they want to be, especially those who are disadvantaged, especially those who are elderly. And I think that's really marvellous, because it tells us something real about what community spirit is about, and the community coherence, or the gathering of people to actually help themselves as well.
We've got 25 schemes that work with us as a county council. We run a quarterly community transport forum which helps them sort of look at best practice, to look at what other schemes are doing. Actually got the schemes working in a way now that they're self-sustaining.
Good morning, car service.
How many volunteers have you managed to?
Approximately 80 drivers now.
Right, right.
Last year we just did under 300,000 mile and carried it just under 8,000 people.
Is it difficult to get volunteers?
I find it not, because of the economic climate. There's lots of people coming forward because they want to do something. What we do is we obviously have the office phone, which is usually manned from 9 till 4.
Right.
And then it's diverted to a private individual volunteer to have it throughout the night.
What sort of geographical area do you actually cover?
You name it, we'll go anywhere. We're doing a job today from Scunthorpe, pick up in Scunthorpe, take to London, sit and wait for a doctor's appointment or a specialist appointment, and then bring them back.
So do you have any funding at all from outside sources?
No, self-sufficient.
So totally self-sufficient? There was a great debate about funding, and that's bound to be an ongoing debate, and some people are saying that you can't rely upon central government to put funding in, other people are saying you must rely upon central government to put some funding in, otherwise the whole transport system in rural areas is unsustainable.
Some central government sometime is going to have to be brave enough to put the funding in to subsidise it for a long time, because people will not get on the public transport until they see it's reliable and it works.
Schemes like Kickstart are excellent, and rural transport has actually been able to benefit from them.
If we really want to provide transport in sparse areas, it actually has to be subsidised in some form or other. And I think that was one of the key lessons coming out yesterday. I think I was surprised by the sheer commitment of people who I met, and I was delighted to be surprised at that. And that the way they saw this as an opportunity, not to give up, but to say, okay, what can we put in place across the piece, bringing together, for example, the community rail network, bringing together the Call Connect, bringing together the voluntary organisations, the voluntary societies, and making sure that together they're filling the gaps, which I think is one of the great keys.